Hey Scottsdale kids, I miss you terribly and I hope you're doing well. Today we have some amazing verses to look at from the Bible, but before we do, I have a question to ask you. What's the hardest thing you've ever done? Maybe for some of you it's sports related. Maybe you've run a mile out in the hot sun till you thought you were gonna pass out, or maybe you've thrown a baseball until your arm felt like it was gonna fall off. Or maybe for some of you artists and musicians, you've painted something really difficult. Or maybe you've tried to learn a brand new song on the guitar or the piano. These are all hard things. But this week I saw some kids do some crazy, amazing, hard things. Check it out.
Are you ready for us to be something new? Are you ready for it? Are you ready for us to be something new? All honesty, we're slipping off slowly, so hold on to me. All honesty, we're slipping off slowly, so hold on to me. We can be something. Are you ready for us? 'Cause I'm ready for you. Are you ready for us? We can be something new. Are you ready for us? Oh, 'cause I'm ready for you, ready for you. Are you ready for us? We can be something new. Are you ready for us? Are you ready for us? We can be something new. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for us? We can be something new.
Wow, if any of you all can do one of those things, I want to know about it. Send it my way. But for today, as we continue our journey through the Bible with Jesus, we will learn that following Jesus is not easy, but he is so worth it. Let's check it out. As Jesus walked from city to city, he always found people that stopped and followed him. And these people followed him for different reasons. Some people followed him because they were curious about who he was. Some people followed him because they wanted to see miracles. I mean, Jesus did create food out of thin air. And some people, they wanted to follow him because they knew he was powerful and that he could fight off their enemies and all the bullies in their lives. And Jesus knew all of these reasons, but he really wanted all these followers to know how much it would cost to follow him. Because the reality is, it's hard to follow Jesus. Jesus said that it is costly to follow him. Now you hear cost, and I know what you're thinking. Money. But that's not what I'm talking about. Jesus wasn't saying that you have to pay money to get to heaven or to follow him. No. What he meant is there are certain things that you're gonna have to give up in order to follow him. What might that look like for you? Well, you might have to give up some of your friends. Maybe some of your friends are bad influences on you. Maybe they try to pull you away from God, and you may have to come to the hard decision that they're not the best friend for you. Or maybe you have to give up some of your time. Maybe you spend a lot of time playing video games or doing things that you enjoy, but there are better ways to use your time. Maybe you give up time to spend time in the Word, reading about God and praying to him. Maybe you have to give up some of your toys and the stuff that you have in your life, and maybe you choose to give it to someone who's poor or needy. You have to give up things when you're a Christian because you put God first. And so that's what I want you to remember. It's hard to give up things at times. We know that following Jesus is not easy, but he is worth it. Let's go back to where Jesus was walking with his followers on the earth. One disciple came up to him and said, "Teacher, I'll follow you wherever you go." Well, Jesus said something very interesting to this well-spoken man. He said, foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. It's a little strange, isn't it? What Jesus was saying is, hey, we're not going to some fancy hotel, so don't be prepared for that. And if I tell you that we need to sleep in the dirt tonight, be ready for that too. If a friend came up to you one day and said, will you come with me on a road trip? And then later said, we're not staying anywhere nice, we're actually gonna camp in the dirt. What would you say? Would you say, absolutely, or thanks, maybe another time? I think for this man, he was shocked at this. And so we need to know that sometimes following Jesus is really hard, and we're not promised a really comfortable life. We need to be ready to give up even the most basic comforts in our lives. Another disciple came up to Jesus and said, yes, Lord, I will follow you, but first let me go say goodbye to my family. How do you think Jesus responded? He said, anyone who puts their hand on the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of God. What did Jesus mean by this? He's meaning that Jesus has to take first place in your life. He has to be first priority. And he was saying, even if it means leaving your family, that is the most important thing, to put Jesus first. Jesus wasn't saying that family's bad. He was just saying that he needs to be first place in your life. Now that's hard to do because we love our families, but we know that we must love God more than mom, more than dad, more than brother, more than sister, more than anyone. He has to have all of our love. He has to be number one. Following Jesus is not easy, but he is worth it. It's not a piece of cake to be a Jesus follower. It's really hard. You have to give up things. You have to give up things that you really want. But something is so cool, and I want you to know it so clearly today, that when you choose to give up things here on earth, you gain all the treasures of heaven. And I want to read you a Bible verse that has to do with that in Matthew 16:25. It says, if you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. See, if we choose to give up the things here on earth that sometimes we hold so tightly onto, the toys and the time and the friends and the family, all the things that we love so dearly, if we can hold those with a loose hand and give them back to God, then we will gain all the treasures of heaven, and that is a great deal. Be sure to hang out for just a few more minutes because we have specially designed discussion questions for you and your family to help you remember the Bible truth from today. Be sure to have those conversations with your family and enjoy that time together. And I hope that some of you today will make the decision to follow Jesus. Even though it isn't easy, oh, he is so worth it. Love you, Scottsdale kids. Hope to see you soon.